I used to lie a lot. I still do sometimes, mainly out of anxiety and nervousness, but it used to be like this compulsion that I would always feel compelled to pull out in almost any situation, just so I could seem like the more interesting guy in the room. And largely, I think it was due to the fact that I found myself a boring person. I thought these things that I have that make me who I am are not good enough, and so in order to impress the people around me, what I need to do is conjure up some sort of false reality. I didn't really need to. All I really needed was charisma and a nice presence, and then I would have been fine, but I didn't know how to do that, and so in order to make up for it, I made up a bunch of stories. And it got to a point where even when I was a bit more charismatic and I knew how to talk to people slightly more, I still did it because it was just a habit at that point. It was like a compulsion. Because the thing about doing something for a long enough amount of time is that it ends up being ingrained in how you view the world and how you do things. And so now I'm still dealing with this, dealing with trying to be a more honest person. And it's not easy because it's a habit, it's a compulsion that was built up from years and years of having to do that. Where when I was younger, I felt as if I was in too unsafe of an environment to tell the truth. And so the way that I got around that was by not telling the truth. And that ended up manifesting itself into much, much more dishonest behavior. And that's a problem. It's a very big problem because nowadays I don't find myself doing it as much. But back in the day, it was like a strain on my entire life because I would end up telling so many lies that it would require me to tell more lies just to cover the old ones up. And so it was like a constant building that was being renovated, reconstructed, where I had started out with a relatively small space. And then as it went on, just got bigger and bigger, and I was forced to remember more and more details so that I would make sure all the details were always correct. And I was, constantly like playing characters with people and stuff that I would have to keep up, their ideals and who they are. And so it was always like I was trying to keep up the facade. It was like I was trying to calculate what responses I would get, and so I would try to form um, my sentences, my responses to them, to coincide with what I thought they would react to it with. So yeah, it's one of those things where I put a lot of calculation into it. Some of the things I didn't do, some of the things I just lied just for the sake of it, and it was pretty dumb at the time. But there were other instances where that was certainly not the case, and I was doing some really fucky shit. And so it's just weird for me trying to fully break the habit when it comes to people who are in the real world that I'm still dishonest with sometimes. And old habits die hard, you know. Don't do it as much with internet friends anymore. Um, with internet friends, I've tried to maintain a level of honesty with them and transparency about how I am and what I do. I mean, obviously, I'm making a video about how I do this, so need to be honest. Need to make sure that I'm always telling the truth. That's what the Buddha says. Buddha says you can't lie. And the reason he said that is because you end up just constantly having to worry about keeping up with the lies when you tell the truth, you can just say the truth. There's no effort that needs to be put in. There's no thought that needs to be put into just telling the truth. Whereas with a lie, it's like you're constantly trying to reverberate what's already there. And that's not fun.